Okay, so we have started learning React in the official page. We have so far learned how to create a component, or we have been practicing what is the syntax to create a component. Yeah, and we also understood what are components and why components. We said components are the building blocks of the UI. If at all any piece of UI, any page, yeah, any piece of UI I want to create using React, the way to do it is to create a component. Component, they're actually a JavaScript function, but one special thing in React is they can also have the HTML part or the UI part, the display part. Yeah, that is written using this JSX syntax. This syntax looks like exactly like HTML, but it is not 100% HTML. It is a JavaScript extension syntax. And you're familiar now. If at all I have to create a component, I have to use this return keyword, and within that I have to write my HTML tag. If I just want h2, then write only h2 and then say this is h2. You got the output. Now, so let's move on, yeah, with the basics of component. Yeah, what is importing and exporting? So this importing and exporting, if you remember yesterday I told, this is actually a concept comes from the JavaScript. This is a native feature of JavaScript. So now first thing is, why do we use that feature? Why that we are actually going for that feature within the React? The reason being, I said, so in React, we use component hierarchy. We create tree of components. We don't write everything whatever we want in you know in single component or in single file. If I divide into small pieces, into small components, then easy to maintain, easy to replace, yeah, easy to update, also easy to debug and test also. And on top of that, reusability also is be more. That is the reason we go for creating multiple components. What is it? Okay, that is the reason we go for creating multiple components in React. Now, root component file. So in React, we have one component which is called the root component. Which is a root component in our case? app.jsx. Why app.jsx is root? How do you say? Because in index file, you see there is an index file. So we have written, okay, React DOM, you know, creating a DOM root, and then on that we are calling render. There we have written app component. That is why this is actually the root component of our React application. This is the root component. Now, if any new component has to be displayed onto the, on the web, on the UI, it has to be under this app component only. Meaning, assume I create another component called function form. Yeah, I create a form component, and then let's say I'll display some hello world message instead of rather than writing the form tag. Hello, this is form. Is it displayed? Is it rendered? Can I see the output of this? I cannot see. Okay, I cannot see this. Why? It has to be under this root component only. Anywhere, it need not be directly under app. It can be via some other component also. but it has to be rendered under this root component. So now I am directly putting in the root component, and this is a root component. So it's like a tree. Let's say we created earlier input, input component. Yeah. So though I create an input like this, yeah, having an input tag, the self closing. So this is an input. Thing is, I can use it like this also directly here, or it can come anywhere in the hierarchy, component hierarchy. Yeah. So to just display it, so I can use this input directly within this form also. How? By rendering the input directly in the form component. So one thing with respect to React is it doesn't support two elements like this without a common parent. That's where we you know write write a common parent element for, yeah, each of the JSX element. So in our case, I'm seeing I'm missing form tag, so I write a form tag actually, so that when become a parent for these two. What it can become? It can become a parent for these two elements. So you will have to write a common parent actually. Now one other thing you have to understand, yeah. So this return, next to the return, the brackets are optional if you have only you know one line. But if you add multiple lines, you see, as soon as I format the code itself, the editor itself is adding this parenthesis. These are not curly brackets. Yeah, they are not curly bracket, they are parenthesis. Very important to remember the syntax. Okay, so now if I go on adding components like this file becomes too much clumsy. Too many things will go on here. They are now displaying only hello, form and all that. What if I add lot of functionality? I add about form validation, I add about editing the form, viewing the form. So there will be so many things with respect to functionality. And this I am saying root component. Anything and everything, if my application is growing, it becoming bigger and bigger by adding new functionality, there will be lot of code which goes into this file, which is not a good developer experience. As a developer, you don't feel like putting everything and searching. That is where, so React, we export and import the components. What do? We export and import the component. How do I create? Yeah, so we create a new file. Yeah, I can say form dot, or even I can say components dot js. So in terms of extension, don't confuse. Yeah, you can write JSX also, or you can write purely .js also. Both the syntax will work. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm just refactoring my code, whatever was there in the app.js, I put directly in a new file called component. Now this is actually a JS file, this is a JS file. What we have understood earlier is whatever is defined in this file, yeah, and this file is actually, you can treat like it's a module. In JavaScript, yeah, so .js file itself is a module. This is also, you can think of like this is a module. This is already using the export and import. These two syntax comes under modules. And this module syntax that we are using is called ECMAScript module. Now one of the core feature of this module is whatever is defined in this file is only visible here. Whatever is defined is only visible and accessible here. But then how do I borrow these two things in another file? That is where this export and import syntax comes into picture. So we have got export syntax. which means I can write export next to each of these functions. I can write similar to exporting a function. I can write export here also. I want to use input in one more file, then I write export. If I'm not using this outside, or if I don't want to use it outside, then I don't have to export. Getting what I'm saying? Whatever you want to use in other file, only that you do export. And how? Very simple, you put this keyword before the function. That's all it is. Now in the app.jsx, I can actually do an import of this form and fix it. How? Here the reverse, it's not export, I have to do an import. If at all I have to do an import, I have to write a curly brackets actually. In this I have to, from where I have to import? From, I have to write the path of that particular file. Let's say if it is in some folder, then I have to write that folder name. Slash that file name alone is enough. No need of .js and all. Even if you write, there is no harm. It is going to work. So, but you have to include the path from this file. So this file and these two files are in the same folder. So I am saying dot slash means in the present directory, search for this file called components. Okay, from there I would like to do an import. So this is a file name without extension. And now here I can say, so there are many things which are written in this file, but only one is exported. That export alone I can actually, that exported alone I can actually borrow it outside. You see, it's in the form. So this form is what I would like to render. That is why I'm exporting it. Yeah. So form, so it's a component. That's all it is. So this is what is actually a feature called module, or what is the meaning of exporting and importing. So just like a JavaScript modules in React, we do export it so that we organize the code into the respective files. Yeah. So I told you what is root, and now I'm telling you exporting and importing. So let's see an example now. Okay. So here they have created a separate component called separate file called gallery.js. See the naming and the case also. Here they don't want to export this profile, but they only want to export this gallery. That's why only the gallery has been exported. And in the app.js, you're only importing the gallery and then you're using it. Getting it? Let's say from the gallery or from this gallery.js, I want export profile also. I told you, you have to just write export syntax here. And in the app.js, you want to write import. Then, so here in the same line, we can add again curly bracket and then we write what is called as profile. Now since I am importing it, I can do import profile. I can do render profile within this. Now it has some error. Let's see what is it. Yeah, adjacent JSX expression must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Correct? This is the same warning I told you. So for now, I'll just solve this by using a common tag for div. Under div, I'll put both the element. But we will be discussing about all these things. Don't worry now, because we are in early days. We are just trying to learn the syntax. See, now we got one more profile. Now you might be having question. Okay, let me go back to the gallery.js file. Why they have written default here and why they have written without a default? This is what earlier I told you, there are two kinds of export. and this export is called named export, and this export is called default export. Per file, meaning per single file, yeah, in a single .js file, even in React or in JavaScript, you can write only one default export. But you can write as many exports as you want. You can write how many ever exports you want, you write it. But the default one is only one. What is the difference? Why it is? Okay, so this is all I've already discussed. Okay, you'll have to revisit that video and understand it. There's a dedicated video which I've given in the JavaScript series about what exactly is a module in detail. Now, you see, this is a named export and this is a default export. And this is all from a same module. That's why I'm writing in the same line the syntax like this. Let's say I only wanted named, then we'll have to just put this curly brackets like this, and then I have to go on mentioning whatever I want. Maybe profile 2 I want, comma profile 3 I want. So all the named ones you have to put it in this curly bracket. The default one you can write outside. This is just a syntax. Till you get familiar, you have to start seeing the syntax. You can refer MDN and see, okay, what is MDN? Give me import and export. It will give you the syntax. Refer that. Okay, now this is the same thing we are seeing. So components we cannot write and put everything in one single file. It is required to better organize the code into separate files, and that is where we need a exporting and importing. Alright, and they have given the challenges here. They have put some challenges I think here. Okay, and very important thing is they also try to explain you everything here itself. Yeah, try to solve this challenge now. Okay, try to solve this challenge on your own. So now we have created two files. One is profile, one is gallery. Yeah, so they're saying move this into the profile and then use import within this. So again they're doing refactoring, code refactoring. We call this as code refactoring. Now they're saying put this into another dedicated file, profile, and do write an import syntax for that. Okay, so you solve this after the class and then fix this.
Sir,
Yeah, what are you saying?
sir, if interchange the name and default export, it will work or not?
What do you mean by exactly interchange? What do you want to change? Interchange here?
And default first ಗಾಗಿ name second ಗಾಗಿ work
Name,
ಆಗುತ್ತೆ sir.
one second. Sorry, what did you say? Name first kaki.
But default ಅನ್ನೋದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಐತಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
Okay, one second. I still didn't fully understand your
ಹ್ಮ್.
question. So I've written export. Okay, let me go back to that gallery example. So yeah, with that you tell me. Yeah, you order is not a problem. You can change. You want gallery to be, you know. So let me go to that. So here, sorry, this is named default. This is named. Now your
Yes.
question is here can I write export default? Here I can write export.
Yes, sir.
Up to you.
That's why yes.
Both will work. So no difference. Only difference will come in the import line. That's all. No change in the functionality also. Yes, they will work.
Okay, sir.
Okay, moving on. Moving on. So I think I'll not talk much about this. This you have to practice. You have to solve this challenge. And if you start doing, I think in a day or two, you will get familiar with this syntax also. It is just a syntax to borrow or share modules between other modules. That's what is exporting and importing for now. Okay, so with this, let's briefly understand what is the syntax. How do I write markup with the help of JSX? We are a bit familiar with the word JSX, but we don't know the full syntax of it, correct? We don't know the full syntax, like what is it, how it is, how much it is different. So what are we going to look at now? So why React mixes markup with rendering logic? How JSX is different from HTML? How to display information with JSX? Yeah, so let me briefly walk through. I'm going to explain it once again. We will actually have a practice also. Okay, see, this is HTML so far, and this is JavaScript. But when we are seeing in React, we see we are combining together, correct? Within the function, we are writing, or within the component, we are writing the JavaScript logic also, and then we are writing HTML also, HTML kind of syntax. See, in this component also, we are able to write, HTML. The blue shade is HTML. The yellow shade is actually JavaScript. I mean, these are two examples of components, okay, how we write. So we can even combine the JSX syntax within the JavaScript also. Yeah, isn't it? We are combined. Now, why it is what we are going to understand now. Okay, so they're saying keeping buttons rendering logic and markup together ensures that they are in sync with each other on every edit. Meaning the benefit of putting things into one component they are trying to explain. Since it is in one place, it becomes easy. I don't have to switch between multiple files. I have to check what is there in the HTML and then see what is there in JavaScript. What is there in JavaScript, then see what to put in HTML. No need of confusion. Everything is in one place. And this syntax is actually called JSX syntax. This is possible because of JSX syntax. And I've been saying it looks a lot like HTML. But now let's understand, let's have a bit more closer look at what it is. You see, JSX and React are two separate things. They're often used together, but you can use them independently. So JSX is they're used together, but then they're two different things. Yeah, and JSX is, I told you yesterday, it is not a language. It's purely a syntax. Okay, let's say I have an HTML code like this, and we already saw this examples. This perfectly works fine in an HTML file, but this does not work in JSX or within the React component. Why? You all know that. Okay. So each and the JSX syntax is lot strict, is more strict than HTML. HTML is not at all strict actually. This will give you correct output as you are looking for. But the JSX, will expect that it has to be, having a proper opening and closing tag if there is a body. Yeah. So we are seeing the rules here. So we'll understand. I think maybe let me talk along with the rules. Okay, so let me talk along with the rules. So because JSX is stricter, yeah, and has few more rules than HTML. Let's see what are the rules. Okay, through this now we are trying to understand more about what are its rules. To return multiple elements from a component, wrap them with single parent tag. Is it familiar? Did we talk about this? Yeah. So some time ago we discussed an example. So let's say I have to return set of elements. Yeah, I am trying to return multiple elements in a single component. ch1, image, ul. But there is no common parent to this. The rule says you should have a common parent. You cannot return multiple elements just like that. You make sure always return one element. That's what the rule is saying. If you want to return multiple, put under the some one element. But make sure you return only one element. You cannot return two elements. Not possible. That syntax will not work, isn't it? That syntax will not work. All right. If you don't want to add an extra div, then you can use this, this empty brackets, and this is actually called as a fragment. This is actually a syntax named as fragment. What is it? If you don't want to use div, sometimes you say no, I don't want to use div. There are use case where we will kind of skip div, but not worry on that. But just remember, okay, there is something called fragment. Instead of div, we can even write this. To what? To make sure we follow this rule of returning single, root element. This is the first rule. That's all is that rule actually. Second rule says close all the tags. You cannot leave open tag and then just leave it. No, React will fail. JSX will not be able to understand. You have to have a proper closing tag. UL, okay, LI, closing tag. Image, it's a self-closing tag because it does not have a body. Still, it has to write slash forward slash. This is that second rule. You should close all the tags. Self-closing, having a opening and closing tag, yes, you should write. They're not optional. Where? In the JSX syntax. Okay. Third thing is camel case most of the things. Especially this is applicable for attributes. In HTML we call it as attributes, correct? Example class is an attribute. See here we are not writing just class. And camel case, yeah, starts with lower, and every word, new word, will start with an uppercase. Now why so and so? They've given explanation. These are all these attributes in the list of DOM component props. I've told you what is a DOM. The other day we discussed, okay, if I access some element, that yeah, that object will have so many properties, and these properties will have exactly this name actually. Exactly, we will have class name. Let me show you quickly, okay, what I'm talking about, and I've already discussed on this. So let's say quickly using DOM methods we can create. I would like to create one DOM, object, and through that I would like to show you why class is class name. Okay, so this is how it is stored in the JavaScript object. That is the reason we write the same thing in React. So let me use an what is called as create element. I would like to create a paragraph element, and let me hold this reference into a p. Now this object reference, now has lot of keys, and you see all these keys are camel case. Yeah, be it class name, see, camel case, and we don't have something called just class. What we have? Class name. That is the reason in React also we write exactly the same thing what is there. Yeah, this is what they're saying. These are all the, so the attributes are exactly like the DOM component properties. They exactly match the properties. Few minutes back, okay, we wrote, okay, HTML for, that's mostly a JSX one. That's part of the JSX syntax. So can you tell me any other property which is, any other attribute which is multi-word? Any other HTML attribute which is a multi-word? So we have got placeholder, that's a single word, correct? No? Yeah, for example, especially the ones ARIA. All these ARIA ones, you can see, these are actually all multi-word. Okay, these are all the attributes. These are all attributes, and they're all camel cased. Okay, so this is the third rule that we have in terms of attributes, camel using camel casing. Okay, they're giving you a pro tip. Use a JSX converter, which means, yeah, they're saying there is a one standard website called transform HTML to JSX. Let's say I've already written a lot of code for this HTML. They're saying you write an HTML, yeah, as a beginner, or let's say you have a lot of things to convert. You find it like, okay, difficult to convert because you will have to update a class, you will have to put closing tag for each of them. So everything it will take care where using this converter. Paste your HTML here, and then you say you want JSX, then you get this JSX code. And see, this will follow all these rules. Yeah, you have to return a single parent. If you don't want to have a div, then you will put fragment. It's already having all this. Class is replaced with class name. So all this kind of transformation, yeah, even style has been updated. So this you easily get with this kind of HTML to JSX converter if at all you want to convert. But soon you will get familiar with the syntax itself. That time you don't use these converters, but they're just giving you that there is an option like that. Okay, so we understood what is importing and exporting. We also understood some rules with respect to writing a JSX. Okay, we will stop here. Yeah, at this point. I think tomorrow we'll see JSX bit more. Yeah, and then very important concept called as passing props to a component. There is very small topic called JSX, passing props to a component. Then we have got conditional rendering also. Okay, so those who are finding it difficult, you're not following what I'm saying. I want you to take some extra time out. Don't tell me I didn't have time. I have other work. No, I have also had a lot of work, but still I'm sitting in front of you guys now. So you need a commitment. You cannot simply just walk and just say, okay, I'll learn. No, tomorrow I'll learn. No, now you have put an commitment. Everybody is now in line. So I am also ready to spend. You also should be ready to spend the time. Otherwise, yeah, you sit and read. No worries. You learn. There are in online. There are a lot of materials are there. Okay. So I want you guys to read these topics. Okay, read these topics and come, so that even if I explain past, you will understand what I'm talking about, and you will also get a chance to ask questions. Otherwise, now you have to read. Tomorrow you will have to read and see if you understood, and then you will. If you have any questions, you will be left with you only. All right. So I'm saying, so yeah, revise what we have covered and make sure you come reading JSX, passing props, and conditional rendering. Yeah. So in React, just imagine we don't have too many concepts like in JavaScript. React is a library. Again, it is built all of its features mostly around JavaScript only. We go back to JavaScript only. It has a very simple syntax. Having a component, JSX, props, state, over. That's all is there in React. People might think, okay, React is so much, React is that. No, it's JavaScript is so much. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Yeah, feel free to ask if you have any questions, and we'll meet tomorrow then.